Analyst Mark Adams stared at his screen in disbelief. In his 3 years working at the Galactic Survey Corps, he had never seen anything like this. The database entry for Sol 3, commonly known as Earth, had just been upgraded to Do Not Engage status. He blinked twice, making sure his translator wasn't malfunctioning. The young analyst leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his hair. Earth hadn't even achieved faster-than-light travel yet. Most species at that development stage were classified as safe for initial contact, or at worst, approach with caution. A do not engage classification was usually reserved for highly dangerous or unpredictable civilizations. His curiosity got the better of him. Mark began digging through the archived reports, his fingers dancing across the holographic keyboard. The office around him was quiet, with most other analysts having left for their rest cycle. The soft blue glow from his screen illuminated his focused expression. The first report dated back 5 years ago. As he read through it, his eyes widened. "This can't be right," he muttered to himself. A notification popped up on his screen. His supervisor, Director Thompson, wanted to see him immediately. Mark swallowed hard and stood up, straightening his uniform. The walk to the director's office felt longer than usual. "Come in, Analyst Adams," Director Thompson called out before Mark could even knock. The director was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through you. "I see you've noticed our recent database update." Mark nodded. "Yes, sir. I was just reviewing the historical records to understand why a pre-FTL civilization would receive such a classification." Thompson finished for him. "Sit down. What you're about to learn isn't common knowledge." Mark took a seat, noticing a physical folder on the director's desk, something rare in their digital age. Thompson opened it, revealing actual printed documents. "What do you know about humanity, Adams?" "Only what's in the public database, sir. Industrial civilization, rapidly advancing technology, significant environmental challenges, internal conflicts but showing signs of unified planetary governance." Thompson smiled slightly. "That's the official story. The reality is more interesting." He pushed a document across the desk. "This is the first contact report. Not the official one, the real one." Mark picked up the paper, his hands slightly shaking. As he read, his professional composure began to crack. "This can't be accurate, sir. According to this, they rescued the crew of a crashed stealth ship using completely improvised equipment." "Yes, and that was just the beginning." Thompson stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the artificial stars of their space station. "In the 5 years since that incident, we've recorded 47 major interactions with humanity, each one more surprising than the last." Mark continued reading, his expression shifting from disbelief to understanding. The trading post incident, the military probe, the diplomatic mission. They weren't accidents, were they, sir? "Very good, Adams." "No, they weren't. Each was a test, and humanity didn't just pass. They exceeded every expectation in ways we couldn't imagine." Thompson turned back to face Mark. "Do you know what makes humans truly dangerous, Analyst Adams?" Mark looked up from the documents. "Their technology." "No, it's their adaptability, their problem-solving skills, their ability to take our technology and improve it in ways we never considered." Thompson sat back down. "But most importantly, it's their unpredictability combined with their moral complexity. They're capable of incredible kindness and remarkable violence, often in the same moment, all while maintaining their own internal logic. Is that why we've classified them as do not engage?" "Precisely. We're not protecting the galaxy from humanity, Adams. We're protecting other species from their own assumptions about humanity." Thompson closed the folder. "Your new assignment is to monitor Earth communications. If anyone asks why, tell them it's routine pre-contact observation." Mark stood up, his mind racing with everything he'd learned. At the door, he paused. "Sir, what do we do if they contact us first?" Thompson smiled. They already have atoms. They just don't know we know. As Mark walked back to his desk, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humanity had in store for the galaxy. The small town of Pine Valley, Montana, had never seen anything like it. At first, the locals thought it was a meteor, a bright light streaking across the night sky, leaving a trail of blue fire. But meteors don't change direction, and they certainly don't try to land. Sheriff Robert Mills was the first to reach the crash site. His truck's headlights illuminated a path through the fresh snow as he carefully drove up the mountain road. The night was cold, typical for early December, and his breath formed small clouds in the air. "This is Sheriff Mills to dispatch. I'm about half a mile from the reported crash site. No signs of..." Wait. He stepped on the brakes. Ahead of him, through the trees, something was glowing. The ship had carved a quarter-mile trench through the forest before coming to rest against a rocky outcrop. It wasn't very large, about the size of a small bus, but its design was unmistakably not from Earth. The hull shimmered with a faint purple light, and strange symbols pulsed along its surface. Robert didn't hesitate. He grabbed his radio. "Janet, get the fire department up here. And call Doc Wilson. And Tom from the hardware store. Tell him to bring cutting equipment. Something tells me we're gonna need it." Within an hour, the crash site was buzzing with activity. Fire Chief Laura Wilson had set up emergency lighting. Doc Wilson was scanning the ship with whatever medical equipment he had, trying to detect signs of life. Tom and his crew from the hardware store were carefully assessing the damaged hull. "There's definitely movement inside," Doc Wilson announced, holding up his ultrasound machine. "At least 3 distinct shapes. They're alive, but their vitals, assuming these readings make any sense, seem to be getting weaker." Inside the ship, Commander Telix couldn't believe what his sensors were showing him. His stealth vessel, designed to observe primitive planets undetected, had malfunctioned catastrophically. Now he and his 2 crew members were trapped, their emergency beacon damaged, with no way to call for help. "The locals are surrounding us," Officer Mira reported, her voice weak from the crash. "They should be running in panic. Why aren't they running?" Tom's voice carried through the ship's damaged hull. "The metal's like nothing I've ever seen, but these seams here, they're consistent, if we can figure out the pattern." He paused, studying the hull. "Hey Bill, bring the plasma cutter. And get those support struts in place first." Commander Telix watched in amazement as the humans systematically worked to reach them. They hadn't just stayed calm. They were innovating solutions on the spot, adapting their primitive tools to deal with advanced alien technology they'd never seen before. The rescue took 4 hours. 4 hours of careful cutting, of constant adjustment, of humans passing tools and shouting encouragements. When they finally breached the hull, Dr. Wilson was the first to reach the injured aliens. "They're humanoid, sort of. 2 arms, 2 legs, but their skin. Never mind that now. They're hurt. Get me the stretchers." She turned to Commander Telix, speaking slowly and clearly while using hand gestures. "We're here to help. You're safe." As the medical team carefully moved the injured aliens to the waiting ambulances, Sheriff Mills was already organizing a cover-up. As far as anyone's concerned, this was a small private plane crash. Nothing more. And folks, he looked at the gathered rescue workers. "I'm proud of every one of you tonight." Later, in his official report to the Galactic Survey Corps, Commander Telix wrote, "The humans didn't just save us. They did the impossible. They took technology they'd never seen, materials they couldn't understand, and an alien physiology they had no knowledge of. And they still found a way. Most remarkably, they never once showed fear or hesitation. Their first and only instinct was to help." The report ended with a recommendation. "This species requires careful observation. Their problem-solving abilities under pressure exceed anything in our current classification system. They are simultaneously the most primitive and most innovative species I have ever encountered." The report was filed and largely forgotten, until 5 years later, when a young analyst named Mark Adams would discover it and begin to understand why Earth had earned its Do Not Engage status. The Earth's first off-world trading post wasn't impressive by galactic standards. Located on a converted oil platform in the Pacific Ocean, it looked more like a collection of shipping containers than an interstellar commerce center. But appearances, as the merchant crew of the starship Golden Prophet was about to learn, could be deceiving. Captain Dex of the Golden Prophet smiled as his ship approached the trading post. His crew had done their research. Earth was new to interstellar trade. New meant naive, and naive meant profit. "These humans don't even have unified planetary currency," he told his crew. "This should be the easiest job we've done in cycles." The trading post's docking officer, James Cooper, greeted them with a friendly smile. "Welcome to Earth Trading Post 1. I see you're registered to trade Class B technology. Please sync your systems with our trading interface." Dex connected his ship's computer to the human trading system, already planning how to exploit its surely primitive security. His smile froze when he saw the interface. "Is something wrong?" James asked innocently. "This is blockchain technology," Dex said, struggling to hide his surprise. "Advanced blockchain." "Oh yes," James nodded. "After the Montana incident, we realized we needed a foolproof system for interstellar trade. Every transaction is recorded, verified, and impossible to alter. We call it the Universal Trade Chain." In the ship's cargo hold, Dex's crew was discovering more surprises. The scanning systems the humans used weren't just thorough. They were identifying things that shouldn't have been identifiable with Earth's technology level. "Captain," his first officer called over the comm, "they're using quantum scanning technology. But it's different, more efficient than anything we've seen." Back in his office, James pulled up the trade contract on a holographic display. "Now, about your offer of navigation computers in exchange for rare earth metals. Our systems have already analyzed your sample unit." Dex felt sweat forming on his scales. The navigation computers they were offering were actually outdated models, repainted and modified to look new. It was a common scam that worked on most developing worlds. "Interesting modifications you've made," James continued, pulling up a detailed schematic. "Particularly this section here. Our engineers were quite impressed with how you managed to mask the manufacturing date. Very clever." "There must be some mistake," Dex started. "Oh, no mistake," James smiled. "You see, after we reverse-engineered the technology from that crashed stealth ship, we developed quite a knack for spotting modified alien tech. Now, according to galactic trade law, attempting to deceive a trading partner automatically transfers ownership of the deceptive goods to the wronged party." Dex's heart sank. He had just lost his entire cargo of navigation computers, legally and irrevocably. However, James continued, "We're willing to be reasonable. You can either forfeit the computers and face a trading ban, or," he paused, "you can accept a fair trade at actual market value, minus a small penalty fee." 2 hours later, a stunned Captain Dex watched as his ship was loaded with a carefully measured amount of rare earth metals, worth exactly what his old navigation computers were actually worth, minus the penalty fee. "A pleasure doing business with you," James called out as the aliens prepared to leave. "Oh, and the penalty fee. We donated it to the Pine Valley Fire Department. They're still buying new rescue equipment." That evening, James filed his report to the Earth Trade Commission. Another attempt at technological deception thwarted. "The Universal Trade Chain continues to exceed expectations. Recommend updating our official technology level classification in the Galactic database. It seems to be working to our advantage to be underestimated." In his own report to his superiors, Captain Dex wrote only one line: "Do not attempt to deceive the humans in trade. They are not what they appear to be." The report was added to Earth's growing file, one more piece of evidence that would eventually lead to their Do Not Engage classification. Not because they were dangerous, but because they had turned their supposed technological disadvantage into a strength that no one had anticipated. Fleet Commander Axon of the Crescent Empire watched Earth through his command ship's view screen. His small fleet of 5 warships had entered the solar system undetected, or so he thought. The plan was simple: show these primitive humans real military power and negotiate trade deals from a position of strength. "Weapons charge, Commander," his weapons officer reported. "Ready to begin the display." "Excellent. Let's show them." Axon stopped mid-sentence. His tactical display had just lit up with hundreds of warning signals. In orbit around Earth, previously invisible satellites were powering up. They weren't the crude communication devices the Empire's intelligence had reported. These were military platforms, and they were definitely not primitive. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, voice shaking. "Those platforms, they're using our own stealth technology, but the power readings are 30% higher than our best systems." Before Axon could respond, a communication request came through. The face that appeared on his screen was that of General Alice Reed of Earth's United Defense Force. She looked remarkably calm. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Axon," she said pleasantly. "I see you're admiring our defense platforms. Interesting design, aren't they? We reversed engineered them from that stealth ship that crashed in Montana. Made a few improvements too." Axon tried to maintain his composure. "This is impossible. Your species shouldn't have this level of technology." "Oh, that's not even the interesting part," General Reed smiled. "Would you like to see what we did with the damaged hull materials we studied? Units 1 through 10, decloak please." Around Axon's small fleet, 10 Earth ships suddenly appeared. They were smaller than his vessels, but sleeker, combining human and alien design elements in ways he'd never seen before. "Fascinating things, those alien metals," Reed continued. "Once we understood their properties, we found ways to improve them. Your stealth coating requires rare materials from 3 different star systems. Ours, we make it in a factory in Ohio." Axon's tactical officer was frantically analyzing the Earth ships. "Sir, they've taken the basic principles of our technology. And sir, they've made it better. Their power signatures are more efficient, their hulls are stronger, and their weapons." He paused. "Their weapons are based on our own designs, but modified to be more effective against our shields." "How?" Axon demanded. "How did you advance so quickly?" "Simple necessity," Reed replied. "We knew we weren't the most advanced species out there, so we had to be smarter about how we used what we learned. Every piece of alien technology that found its way to Earth taught us something new. We didn't just copy it. We understood it, improved it, and made it our own." She leaned forward in her chair. "Now we could demonstrate our weapon systems, but I don't think that's necessary. Instead, let me offer you a deal. You turn your fleet around, go home, and tell your superiors 2 things. First, Earth is not a target for military intimidation. Second, we're happy to establish peaceful trade relations with the Crescent Empire, as equals." Axon looked at his tactical display again. The Earth ships had positioned themselves perfectly to catch his fleet in a crossfire. He had come to demonstrate superior force, and instead found himself outmaneuvered by the very technology his people had developed. "A wise offer," he replied carefully. "I will convey your message." As his fleet retreated from Earth space, Axon recorded his report. "Earth's technological advancement rate is beyond anything in our records. They don't just adapt technology, they improve it in ways we never considered. Military action is strongly discouraged. Recommended status: do not engage." In her own office, General Reed added her own report to Earth's growing database of alien encounters. Another successful defensive deployment. The modifications to their technology continue to exceed expectations. Note: their reaction to our technological advancement suggests they still underestimate our rate of progress. Recommend maintaining this advantage. The incident would later be marked in galactic records as the day Earth proved it could not only catch up to advanced civilizations, but surpass them in unexpected ways. The Galactic Council's diplomatic ship, Unity, entered Earth's orbit with great ceremony. Head Ambassador Wren had prepared for every possibility. After all, first official contact with a new species was delicate work. His team had spent months studying Earth's public broadcasts and visible communications. What they weren't prepared for was walking into Earth's diplomatic center in Geneva and finding detailed information about their own species displayed on the walls. "Welcome to Earth," said Ambassador David Wells, his smile warm but knowing. "I see you've noticed our cultural understanding display. Fascinating, isn't it? We've been studying all known galactic species for quite some time." Wren stared at a perfect diagram of his own species' social hierarchy. This is extremely accurate. How did you? "Oh, we've had plenty of opportunities to learn," David replied. "The crash in Montana, the trade incident, the military visit. Each encounter taught us something new. But more importantly, we've been listening." "Listening?" Wren asked, his diplomatic training barely hiding his surprise. "Your species uses quantum communication networks, yes?" David led them to a conference room. "Well, after we reverse-engineered the damaged communications array from the stealth ship, we discovered we could listen to quite a lot of galactic chatter. We're particularly fascinated by your entertainment broadcasts." The alien delegation sat down, increasingly unsettled. On the conference table, a holographic display showed detailed maps of known galactic trade routes, political alliances, and cultural connections. "But that's not why you're here," David continued. "You're here because Earth has become an anomaly in your careful galactic balance. We're advancing too quickly, learning too much, and it's making people nervous." Wren found his voice. "You seem very well informed, Ambassador Wells." "We try to be," David smiled. "Now let's look at the treaty you were planning to propose." He pulled up another hologram, the one that would limit Earth's technological development and restrict our space exploration to this solar system. The alien diplomats shifted uncomfortably. That treaty was supposed to be a closely guarded secret. Instead, David continued, "I'd like to propose an alternative." He touched a control, and a new document appeared. "We call it the Mutual Development Treaty." As Wren read through the document, his eyes widened. The humans hadn't just created a treaty. They had crafted a masterpiece of galactic law. It protected everyone's interests while creating new opportunities for cooperation. "This is remarkable," Wren admitted. "You've accounted for all major species' cultural needs, even included provisions for the quantum rights movement that hasn't even gone public yet." "We believe in being thorough," David said. "Earth doesn't want to dominate or disrupt. We want to participate and contribute. Yes, we learn and adapt quickly, but we'd rather use those skills to help build something better for everyone." Later that evening, after hours of productive discussion, Wren sent his report to the Galactic Council. Humans have comprehensive understanding of galactic society despite limited contact. Their diplomatic capabilities exceed their technological level. Most concerning, they have been gathering information undetected for years. Recommended action: accept their treaty. Better to have them as partners than potential adversaries. In his own report, Ambassador Wells wrote, "Diplomatic contact successful. The aliens now understand that isolation tactics won't work with Earth. Our rapid learning and adaptation capabilities have secured us a place at the galactic table. Recommendation: continue our policy of open observation while maintaining technological advancement." The Galactic Council would spend weeks debating the implications of this meeting, not because Earth had shown advanced technology or military might, but because they had demonstrated something far more valuable and concerning. They had shown they could understand, predict, and work within the complex web of galactic politics before even being officially welcomed into it. It was yet another piece of evidence that would lead to Earth's do not engage classification, a species that was always 3 steps ahead of where you thought they were. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from 200 species packed the circular room, their voices creating a low hum of nervous conversation. Today's topic: Earth's classification status. High Counselor Venn stood at the central podium, calling for order. The massive screens behind him displayed Earth's current data file. "We are here," Venn announced, "to discuss the most unusual case in Council history, a pre-FTL civilization that has managed to advance beyond all predicted patterns." The first speaker, a military analyst, stepped forward. His holographic displays showed Earth's defense systems. In just 5 years, they've not only mastered our stealth technology but improved it. Their adaptation rate is unprecedented. "That's not the concerning part," interrupted a trade representative. "Look at their economic growth." New charts appeared, showing Earth's increasing influence in galactic markets. They've turned their understanding of our technology into profitable innovations. They're selling us improved versions of our own inventions. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The cultural expert took the floor next. "It's worse than that," she said. "They've been studying us all along. Not just our technology, but our cultures, our politics, our social structures. They understand us better than we understand them." High Counselor Venn raised his hand for silence. "We have a report from their latest space exploration activities. Please observe." The screen showed human ships at the edge of their solar system. They weren't using standard propulsion systems. Instead, they had somehow combined 3 different alien technologies into something new. "How is this possible?" demanded a science minister. "They're mixing technologies that shouldn't be compatible." "Because they don't know they're not supposed to be compatible," answered a human behavior specialist. "That's what makes humans unique. They don't follow our rules because they never learned them. They see possibilities where we see limitations." A security expert jumped in. "They've established listening posts throughout their system. They're monitoring our communications, learning our languages, understanding our conflicts and alliances, all before we officially welcome them into the galactic community. And doing it with technology they built from studying a single crashed ship," added another analyst. "Imagine what they'll do with full access to our science." The debate continued for hours. Some argued for containing Earth's influence. Others suggested making them privileged allies. A few even proposed military action, until someone reminded them how well that had worked out last time. Finally, High Counselor Venn called for order. "We have heard all arguments. Now we must decide. What is humanity's true threat level?" A wise elder from an ancient species stood up slowly. The chamber fell silent. The elder races rarely spoke at such meetings. "You're all missing the point," the elder said quietly. "Humans aren't threatening us with their technology or their diplomacy. They're changing how we think. They take our separate technologies and combine them in ways we never imagined. They ignore our traditional boundaries and create new possibilities. Every solution they find makes us question our own limitations." The elder looked around the chamber. "The real question isn't whether humans are dangerous. It's whether we're ready for how they'll change galactic society just by being themselves." The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Counselor Venn spoke. "We will vote on Earth's classification status. The options are standard contact protocols, restricted engagement, or," he paused, "do not engage." The voting took less than 10 minutes. The results were clear. Earth would be classified as "do not engage," not because they were hostile, but because they were transformative. The final entry in the council records read, "Species demonstrates unprecedented advancement rate and societal impact potential. Standard protocols insufficient. Individual species may engage at own risk. Warning: humans will not adapt to you. They will cause you to adapt to new possibilities." In the databanks of the Galactic Survey Corps, analyst Mark Adams read the new classification and smiled. Humanity had earned its reputation not through power or aggression, but through their unique ability to see possibilities where others saw only rules. In a quiet office at United Earth Defense Headquarters, General Alice Reed and Ambassador David Wells stared at their computer screens, identical smiles on their faces. "They finally did it," Alice said, reading the encrypted message their quantum listeners had picked up. "The Galactic Council has officially classified us as Do Not Engage." "Took them long enough," David replied, sipping his coffee. "Though I have to admit, their reasoning wasn't what we expected." On the other side of the galaxy, analyst Mark Adams was completing his final report on Earth. His small office in the Galactic Survey Court had become the unofficial center for Earth-related intelligence. The walls were covered with notes and images showing humanity's rapid progress. "Final classification confirmed," he wrote. "Earth has been designated as a Do Not Engage civilization. However, this marks the first time this classification has been applied to a species that poses no direct threat." His computer chimed. A new message appeared. From Earth. Mark's eyes widened as he read it. "Dear Analyst Adams, we've been following your career with great interest. Your thorough analysis of our species has been most enlightening. Would you like to join us for coffee sometime? Earth Intelligence Division." Back on Earth, in the newly constructed Galactic Relations Tower in Geneva, the human leadership had gathered to discuss their new status. "So," the Council President asked, looking around the room, "how should we respond to our new classification?" General Reed pulled up a holographic display. "We could reveal that we already have functional FTL drives. The looks on their faces would be priceless." Ambassador Wells shook his head, laughing. "Let's not give them a heart attack. Besides, our drives still need testing. Combining 3 different alien propulsion theories into one system is tricky work." "What about the trade networks?" asked the economic advisor. "The Do Not Engage status might affect our contracts." "Actually," David smiled, "I think it'll help. Nothing makes people more interested than being told to stay away. Our improved versions of their technology will be in even higher demand now." In the Galactic Council archives, the final entry about Earth was being updated. The archivist, an ancient being who had recorded the histories of countless civilizations, added a special note. "In all my cycles of service, I have never seen a species like humanity. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage. Their crashed ship became a learning opportunity. Their trade challenges led to better systems. Their military encounters sparked innovation. Their diplomatic isolation made them better observers." Meanwhile, in his office, Mark Adams made a decision. He sent a reply to Earth. "Coffee sounds wonderful. Although I suspect you already knew I would accept." The response came quickly. "Of course we did. We've had a desk ready for you for months. After all, who better to help us understand the galaxy than the analyst who understands us so well?" In the following weeks, the galaxy adjusted to Earth's new status. Trade actually increased, despite the warning label. More species visited Earth than ever before, curious about the civilization that had earned such an unusual classification. Earth, for its part, added its own note to the Galactic database entry about themselves. "To all galactic species, we appreciate the Do Not Engage classification. It's flattering, really, but our doors remain open to anyone who wants to learn, trade, or simply talk. We promise not to improve your technology too much without asking first. And yes, we know you're reading this message. Come visit sometime. We'll have coffee." The note was signed, "Humanity, making the impossible possible since 10,000 BCE." In the years that followed, Earth's classification would become legendary. It was the first time in galactic history that a species was marked as Do Not Engage, not out of fear, but out of respect for their ability to transform everything they touched. As Mark Adams packed his office for his move to Earth, he added one final line to his report. "Perhaps the galaxy doesn't need to fear humanity's advancement. Perhaps, instead, we should thank them for showing us that even the oldest civilizations can learn new ways to dream."